Mr. Robot, there's a scene, the very first season, where Elliot is talking to Vera's brother, and his brother comes and visits him in his little tiny crummy apartment in New York City, and he hacks his phone easily because they're on the same Wi-Fi network. So the brother asks him, "What's your password on your Wi-Fi?" "Oh, okay, here's my password. Yeah, 1234567 8. Okay, go ahead and connect to it. Once he's on the same network, then it's easy, relatively. Everything is relative, right? Relatively easy to hack that phone. And I will tell you from firsthand experience that there's a lot of malware on Apple phones. Okay,
Interesting.
we see a lot. So that first statement that off-the-shelf malware cannot be used against Apple products is false, right? So,
hey everyone, David Bombal back with the amazing OTW. OTW, great to have you back on the show.
David, thanks once again for having me back to talk about the important issues in cybersecurity and IT in 2025.
I'm really looking forward to this because this is like talking about some really interesting topics with malware and the like. I'll let you break the news. But before we get there, for everyone who hasn't seen our previous videos, OTW is the author of this book, fantastic book if you want to learn about Linux. And as OTW says many, many times, he's a hacker. And if you want to become like him, you need to learn Linux. So he's got this great book, Linux Basics for Hackers, if you want to learn Linux. He's also got this book, Network Basics for Hackers, fantastic from a network point of view, my favorite, obviously. And then getting started becoming a master hacker. And OTW, I hate putting you on the spot, but Python for hackers coming soon, hopefully.
It's coming soon, right around the corner. It's going to be out soon. I want to make sure that it's as high a quality as those other books. So it's taking a little longer than I had anticipated. So
we'll forgive you for that. So we're looking forward to that. So no pressure. Big shout out to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. If you really want to understand how technology works, have a look at Brilliant's wide range of courses. Brilliant has clear learning paths for you to learn a whole range of concepts and principles that take you from beginner levels of knowledge to advanced levels of knowledge. Brilliant helps you become a better thinker and problem solver with thousands of visual interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. As an example, the digital circuits and circuits courses let you explore gates, timing, and behavior by actually poking at the system. You start with the basics and steadily take on tougher problems until the pieces connect and the whole picture makes sense. This is a very satisfying way to learn, where you're learning step by step and getting feedback at every point in your journey. If you want to start learning today for free, go to brilliant.org/David Bombal or scan the QR code on screen or click on the link in the video description. Brilliant also gives you 20% off an annual premium subscription if you use my link, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. OTW, now let's jump into the topic, right? There's been some interesting updates with regards to one of the topics that we spoke about in the past. So Pegasus malware. So perhaps you can tell us about this malware and why people should care, and what's been happening. And then I'll hit you with some questions that I've got as well.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we did a show a while back about Pegasus. Pegasus is developed by the NSO group out of Israel. It's probably the most sophisticated and malicious malware in the world. At that time, I questioned whether or not it should be legal. And we got a lot of feedback about that. But a court on Friday, October, where that was, 19th, I believe, came out with a ruling that said that Pegasus could not intercept messages on WhatsApp.
Yeah, I've got some cynical takes on this. I'll let you talk, and then I'm going to hit you with the cynical stuff, right?
Well, they were sued by the government, so it's not a criminal act. The suit was brought by Facebook, okay, by Meta, and they said you cannot spy on our application. So there's no law breaking here. It's a principle that this is their property, WhatsApp is, and that somebody else can't infringe upon their property and cause damage to it. So the ruling is very specific. It's a permanent injunction. That means they can never in the future access WhatsApp and any other Meta product, including Facebook and Instagram, what have you. But we don't have any evidence that they ever did that. But It's specifically to Meta because Meta brought the suit. It doesn't extend to anything else on your phone. So any other app you have on your phone, any other communication is taking place on your phone, it's all can be targeted by NSO Group's Pegasus. So this is very specific, it's very narrow, but it also raises issues for anybody who has been accessed, their data has been accessed by NSO, whether or not, I think they have a suit to bring against NSO. NSO is a corporation now owned by a group of American investors. And so this is something that the American courts may be addressing here soon. But it's really interesting that we finally have some ruling that kind of says, yes, this is beyond the pale. This is not acceptable. But unless you sue NSO, and this is what happened, unless you sue and wait 6 years, this took 6 years to get a ruling, 6 years. And they said, okay, you cannot access this particular company's product. It doesn't say anything about anybody else's product, but it also kind of reflects badly upon the NSO, that they really are producing a product that is infringing upon somebody's corporate property, WhatsApp, and people's privacy. And they're doing this specifically to capture information of political enemies, journalists, lawyers, diplomats. They're looking at a lot of people's systems. And I've seen evidence that it goes beyond just those people. I mean, so mostly it's been targeted towards human rights activists, journalists, political dissidents, some diplomats, foreign service people. But I've seen it on regular people's phones, regular, like you and I, we're just regular people. And so it's something that I've been concerned about for quite a while. And I actually take some heart in this ruling, but it's still very narrow ruling. It just says WhatsApp. So if you're texting or you're calling or you're emailing, they can still have access to what you're talking about, what you're saying, what you're doing. So, of course, it doesn't keep them from spying on your location, which is what it's been used for a lot. So if a government wants to find somebody to kill them or to disappear them, they can find them. And similar software has been being used recently by ICE, not the same software, but similar software by ICE in the US to locate people that they want to deport from the United States. So yeah, it's a big and important issue. It's not, I think we're shaping the future of cybersecurity and IT right now in real time. So these kinds of rulings will have effect, for years to come. And hopefully we'll see like other companies also sue NSO and then get prohibitions on intercepting their information as well.
So I'm going to take on the role in this video as being a bit cynical. Let me see if I got this right. Mark Zuckerberg is upset that someone is spying on his software. Doesn't he spy on us all the time? So that's just a cynical joke, right?
So my take on that is, that WhatsApp spies on all of us, right? And Facebook spies,
well known, right?
Facebook spies. We know this. Facebook's been spying on us for since the beginning of Facebook, and WhatsApp spies on, but they don't want anybody else spying on us. they only want to spy on us. This is our territory. Only we can spy here.
Our territory.
Right? You guys can't spy. There's Facebook is spying on us, and they're selling our data. They're selling everything they know about us, and that's kind of the model of the IT industry right now. Is that companies are making huge amounts of money just selling our information, which a very wise man said a long time ago that if service is free, you're not the customer, you're the product. And so
unless it's Linux. Sorry, go on. As someone in the comments said, because I must give credit to the people commenting. So for everyone who comments on the videos, I really appreciate it. Because someone said, what about Linux? And there were quite a few comments like that. But you can't say that. What about Linux? What about open source? So I mean, there are exceptions, right? But it's I know what you say.
And I guess it comes down to the definition of service. I would say Linux is a product, right?
Yeah.
It's a product. But technically, in the United States, all software is considered a service. So that's why, for instance, like if your car breaks down or has a defect and you die in a crash because your car has a defect, you can sue the car manufacturer, Toyota, Mazda, General Motors. You can sue them. And there's a lot of lawsuits that take place in the United States, what's called product liability laws, right? But that doesn't apply to software because in the United
Interesting.
States, software is a service. It's not a product. So
Interesting.
it's one of those things that the lobbyists in the United States got software tagged as a service rather than a product. So if it was considered a product, every time you lost your data because of a hack, you could sue the developer like you can with a car. A car they put out a bad car, or if you have a baby seat and it fails and your baby gets hurt, you can sue the manufacturer for compensation. You can't do that with software. And it's actually, it's been around. Bruce Schneier said this a long time ago. He said, if we make software into a product and hold them responsible like we do with products, then there will be a lot fewer bad software out there that hackers can easily get inside of.
So that's great. I mean, it's ironic is perhaps the word, that someone like Facebook is complaining that another company is spying on them when they spy on us all the time. So
it's kind of like trespassing, right? That's basically what they're saying. It's like this is our territory. Only we can spy here. You can't.
So next thing I'm going to hit you with, right? Okay, so a judge has decided in a court of law in the US that NSO can't spy on WhatsApp. But as you mentioned, and we've discussed as well in the past, the governments around the world use Pegasus and use the software to spy on their citizens. I think you mentioned before that Pegasus is banned in the US. Is that right? But what's to stop the NSA? ICE is kind of controversial. So just for everyone watching, I'm based in the UK. So, I hear stuff happening in the US, but leaving the politics out of it, let's pick on the NSA because, OTW, you and I like to pick on them. What's to stop the NSA just using the software? Because it feels sometimes that governments are above the law. So a judge could say whatever they want, but it doesn't affect some of these three-letter agencies.
No, it certainly does not, because the three-letter agencies are always above the law. They make the law. Whatever they decide is legal, right? And there have been cases in the past where the NSA, CIA have actually run into legal problems, but we don't see that in recent years. Basically, they're doing whatever they want to do. So even though NSO Group's products are banned in the US by the US government, that doesn't mean that other companies aren't producing something almost exactly the same. Or the the NSA has contractors who are very talented people, right? So not everything that the NSA does comes out of the NSA. They buy products, they buy services. And so they contract out, okay, to this kind of development, and they'll pay millions, tens of millions of dollars for products and services that they can spy on us. I mean, you and I had talked about Eternal Blue, which was that piece of software that came out in malware software, whatever you want to call it, came out in 2017, developed by a contractor to the NSA that allowed the NSA to spy on everybody's machine. That we only know about that because it got stolen, right? And then it got released to the public. So there's all kinds of things that are out there that three-letter agencies like ICE, like CIA, like NSA, and I think in the United States there's 17 intelligence agencies. There's 17 intelligence agencies. So we're talking about these three, but there's another 14 out there who are also doing intelligence, and so they can develop on their own. They can purchase. There's a lot of companies out there for all you young hackers out there. There's actually a legitimate career that's legal to produce malware for governments. Okay, so as long as you're serving the government, it's legal. If you're serving somebody else, it's illegal.
Yeah, I want to hit on that in a second, because there's been some recent developments with Apple as well that we should talk about. But while you're talking about this, I remember the case of Edward Snowden, where the US government wasn't allowed to spy on their citizens, but they were working hand in hand with the UK and GCHQ, if I remember correctly, and you guys can correct me in the comments. But I think it was the way it worked at that time is the US organizations couldn't spy on US citizens, so they just got GCHQ in the UK to do it, and then they could spy on all the telecommunications of US citizens. I don't know if you remember that story.
I do remember that, yes. And that's the way that the intelligence agencies work hand in hand. The NSA, though, their mission is like counterintelligence.
Yeah.
Unlike the Cyber Command, which they're in the CIA, their job is to attack enemies. NSA's job is to find the enemies in America, and
Yeah.
that often includes Americans. And they can spy on Americans if they are in communication with somebody that they believe is an enemy. So if you're communicating with somebody who they believe is an enemy, they can spy on that's legal for them. There's no reason to believe that your communication is with a spy or somebody who is against the U.S. interests. They're supposed to not listen in on your conversation. That's the difference that they make in their minds, right? that they can only spy on you if they think you're talking to somebody who's bad, right? And so that doesn't exclude anybody, really.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah, OTW, they're listening to you right now.
Oh, I know they listen to me because they tell me they are. I actually get messages and they say, "Oh, just know that we're listening in.
That's funny.
That we know everything that you're doing." And then, okay, thank you for reminding me of that.
So let's bring this back, right? This ruling, I mean, what's your take on it? Is it valuable? I mean, I suppose from the point of view that citizens can sue, like you said, because it doesn't seem to me that it's going to stop much, but perhaps I'm wrong about it.
Well, it's probably not going to stop anything, probably, right? But it does give the people who are spied upon the right to sue.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
long, drawn out process. Hopefully, in the United States, the way it would work is that some enterprising lawyer, let's call him enterprising. That's
I love it when I drive around the US and I see all those billboards.
Right.
I'm this lawyer, I can sue on your behalf. It's like really strange to see it from a UK point of view. But sorry, go on.
Those are the enterprising lawyers I'm talking
Yep.
about.
Yep.
that will be soliciting business, and of course they'll take 30 to 40% of
Yep.
whatever is awarded. So these enterprising lawyers will create a class action suit, okay, against NSO. And that's probably the only thing that'll happen unless there's somebody very wealthy who's being spied on, then it's not going to happen. But even that, you can see here that it took them 6 years to get a ruling through the American legal system, which is really, really slow, unless you're an illegal alien, and then the legal system works in like 30 seconds.
Well,
at least now it does.
Yeah, I mean, let's avoid the situation, the politics right there, because I think that's
editors can cut that out.
No, we'll leave it in. It doesn't matter. Just for everyone who's watching, I don't restrict what people say on these interviews, so they can say what they want. OTW, it seems really strange, right? Just in the news recently, NSO, who makes Pegasus, has been purchased or acquired by a US investor group. That doesn't sound like a good investment, unless there must be lots of money to be made or something, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I were an investor who was only interested in making money and not interested in any kind of the legal or ethic issues, NSO makes a lot of money. They charge $20,000 a phone, $20,000 a phone. All right, so it's a significant amount of money, and they've got a lot invested in it. I don't know how many people know this, but NSO has a long history with Unit 8200 in Israel. And so those guys kind of go, Unit 8200 in Israel, this is not being political or nationalistic at all, but they're probably the best hacking group in the world. Right? And so these guys are good. And so guys go to the Unit 8200, they work there. It's kind of like the US's NSA, similar, except that it's both defense and offense, both. And then they go to NSO after leaving the Unit 8200. And there's also a big facility, Apple facility right there. And so we see a lot of cross-pollination taking place between NSO, the Unit 8200 and Apple. Okay, so
That's interesting.
that's
I
why
didn't know that. Yeah.
that's why they're so good at hacking Apple products, because really, I mean, this is why they have inner insight into the operating system that few others have.
So I'm glad you raised Apple, because iPhone 17, I mean, forgetting the flashiness and like all the consumer related stuff, there was something in the announcement that was really interesting, where they are talking about memory integrity enforcement. And they would, in this like release that I've been reading about it, they say that Apple phones, iPhones specifically, are very, very difficult to hack. There's no consumer kind of malware that attacks an iPhone. But the problem is this mercenary spyware, which Pegasus is an example of. And so what they are doing is they have now got this memory integrity protection on iPhones, which they say is going to make it much, much harder and much more expensive to attack iPhones. So what's your take on that? Do you think it's a good thing? Would you recommend an iPhone for someone who's like a journalist or someone who's scared of having the software put on their phones?
My take on it first is that one of the services that we offer at Hackers Arise is that we help people who've been hacked. And I will tell you from firsthand experience that there's a lot of malware on Apple phones. Okay.
Interesting.
We see a lot. So that first statement that off-the-shelf malware cannot be used against Apple products is false, right? So, and people who are listening to this, okay, all of you who are listening, many of you know this already. Many of you already know this because you know that your phone's been hacked, right? Apple is in the dark in that regard, that they don't realize that their phones are getting hacked, and they're getting hacked at a really high level. The software is not that sophisticated, but so that's the first point. Okay. The second point, is that this reminds me a lot of address space randomization, or ASLR, which is a good thing, or data execution protection, which basically limits what can actually take place in certain data areas in the operating system, or it randomizes where a service is going to execute. It makes it harder for the malware to predict, okay, where the data is actually going to be at. This reminds me, the new measures by Apple, what they call the memory integrity enforcement, sounds a lot, and I haven't really looked at it closely, but it sounds a lot like ASLR, where we've had this in our operating systems for well over a decade. I remember it well when we first saw it, at least maybe 10 or 15 years. And it was meant to do the same thing as the memory integrity enforcement, or similar things. And it became relatively easy to overcome. Lots of malware overcomes it. And so my thoughts are that it'll slow some people down. Yeah, it'll slow some people down. It'll probably make it a little harder to hack an Apple phone, but quite frankly, it's not that hard right now. And I don't. People always come to me, "Oh, isn't an iPhone unhackable?" Like, well,
Yeah.
not from my experience. Look, I got all these phones.
That's what Apple's selling. Go on.
I got all these phones right here that are full of malware, so that's my proof. So people come to me like, I bought an iPhone because I thought it was unhackable. Well, you're proof that it's not. So this latest measure by Apple, and I give Apple a lot more credit than I give to Google in terms of cybersecurity. Google doesn't put as much effort into keeping their platform free. But at the same time, they don't free of malware and making it unhackable. But what bothers me about Apple is they try to sell the public that the system is unhackable. And then, these people they have all the evidence that they've been hacked, but they're convinced that it's not their phone because the phone is unhackable. I have an iPhone. OTW, you have an iPhone. It can't be the phone, right? And then we go inside their phone and go, oh my God, look at all this stuff. So it'll make it a little harder to hack the phones. And once again, it's encouraging to see a company who takes cybersecurity as seriously as Apple does. They do. They take it far more seriously than the Android platform does, and then the other platforms do. But at the same time, to sell the idea that it's unhackable is not true. That's marketing fluff. That's not real.
I'm glad you said that because you were ahead of me. My next question, as I wrote down here, is what would you recommend? Is Android better than iOS or Apple? So, from a cybersecurity point of view, what would you recommend someone get, or is it like Graphene OS or something like that? It sounds like Android you see is worse than iOS. Sorry, but go on.
Yeah, it's easier to hack an Android phone. One of the things that's kind of surprised me, Dave, if I can just take a side view here,
Of
is
course,
that
yeah,
yeah, and this kind of addresses the same issue. But since we started doing forensic investigations on phones and computers and what have you, I'm shocked to see how much malware these people have on their phones. I don't.
wow,
It's coming from all different places. It's not just one place, and it's not the government. It's coming in from all different places, and they have malware from multiple sources, and it's kind of disturbing. It's disturbing that there is this much malware floating around in the world. I think that in part is that people are using hacker for hire services and hacking their friends, neighbors, business competitor. I saw one recently. I have a client who's a YouTuber, and his YouTube competitor paid somebody to hack his phone, and it was inside his phones and just driving him crazy. So my staff knows, maybe I mentioned this to you, that I get these emails all the time like, oh, my house has been hacked, my home has been hacked,
yeah,
my car's been hacked, my computer's been hacked, and my phone's been hacked, and my garage door's been hacked, and my speaker's been hacked, my smart home's been hacked. And I would go right away, I'd look at that and I'd go, these people have mental health problems. It's not,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
not,
Yeah.
this isn't a hacking problem. This is a mental health. But I now take that back. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah,
I take that back. I'm corrected. They really are hacked. We have been going through these homes, and we've been going through these phones, and we've been going through these computers, and they're full of malware. They're full of it. Their routers are full of malware. Their smart home devices are full of malware. And people are having their garage doors open randomly. Their lights go on and off. The doors open and close, because in a smart home, you can do all of those things once you're inside that network. And so this is something that's been eye-opening to me, because for years I thought that those people were imagining that they were hacked. I'm like, okay, but in reality, they are hacked. They have been hacked. And this is really concerning that so many people, it looks like it's kind of low level hacking. It's not like real sophisticated hacking. So it's not coming from a advanced persistent threat. It's not coming from a government. It's coming like low level hackers are hacking people, right? For whatever reason, I don't know. We're still trying to decipher this, or what's going on here. Why are these people's lives entirely hacked? So and some of you out there know what I'm talking about because you've experienced this. But I would have said they were all crazy until recently. It's like maybe 9 months ago. So
interesting.
it's pretty new for me.
Yeah, so the question is like, I'll get back to, I want to still push you on the Android versus iOS thing. But before we get there, how did they get hacked though? It sounds like social engineering is the way, because to hack an Apple phone, it's going to be like NSO type level hacks. Or is it just like people are downloading stuff or getting convinced to install malware? How does it actually get on the device?
I think I'm going to refrain from answering that
Okay.
because it's too easy.
Okay.
And what we've seen is a very
That's
simple
worrying.
way. It's a very simple way to get into an iPhone. And I'm not going to mention it here because we'll see more of it then, right? But it's a simple way to get inside of a Apple phone,
Wow.
and we're seeing a lot of it. And I don't see anybody talking about it. I don't see anybody online talking about it. So, and anybody else I talk to in the industry, everybody's focused on, the social engineering, the NSO group, but there's some simple ways. And I guess you would probably throw it into the category of social engineering. You probably put it in that way. So yeah, it's social engineering, has an element of social engineering, which goes back to what I've said so many times, is that like 80% of the hacks have a social engineering element. Okay, so that's social engineering is how you get into the system, but then what you do inside the system is very technical. So you've got to have a good product. Once you're inside the system, you got to have a good product to get in there and stay in there, right? so you can control the system. So it has two key elements. Got to get inside the system, social engineering. What you do inside the system is very technical.
Yeah, because it's very interesting what you're saying and kind of shocking, right? Because Apple have now just doubled their bounties. So their bug bounty program, where they will pay $2 million up from $1 million and increased to $5 million if someone can hack into an iPhone that has lockdown mode enabled, which obviously really restricts the device, and get past this memory integrity stuff. So, I mean, like, we can put the bounties on screen, but there's like huge bounties to be made. Well, huge. And I'm pretty sure you as like a hacker will say you can get money elsewhere. But like $5 million, I mentioned this on a video, and a lot of the comments were like, that's too little money. So what's your take on that? Like, would that make it harder, firstly? And what about the money and the payouts?
Okay, so if I'm sitting home in my home lab and I develop a Pegasus-like piece of malware
Yep.
that can do what Pegasus does, which basically allows them to get inside your phone and totally control and read everything you're doing, it's going to be worth a lot more than $5 million to sell to governments, right? So I can sell it to whatever government, whoever wants to spy on their citizens. It's worth a lot more than $5 million. So it's going to be the person who has, some ethical or moral boundaries and says, that's not, I don't want to do that. But people who are simply in it for money, which a lot of people are, $5 million is not enough, right?
Yep.
$5 million is not enough money to get somebody to choose Apple versus some authoritarian government who wants to spy on their citizens, who will pay millions and millions, probably in the area of hundreds of millions of dollars for a piece of software like that.
It's interesting. I mean, I've interviewed Steven Sims, amazing malware guy, and he spoke about like these places where you can go sell 20 million or whatever it is. I mean, I can see why you have that point of view. Certain governments, that what's 100 million or 20 million to them. So, I mean, that is a problem. It's good to see that Apple are doing this, though, to try and encourage people that are moral and ethical to make them aware of it. So I understand both sides. So I want to pull you back into this about like Android versus iOS versus, say, Graphene, which is a very popular choice for a lot of privacy and security focused folks. What's your take? Like, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like if you had to choose a phone, because you have to have a phone, let's say in today's world, is it stock Android? Is it iOS? Is it Graphene or maybe something else?
Well, of the major manufacturers, I would have to say that Apple takes security more serious than the others. The only problem I have is the marketing. It says that they portray themselves as unhackable. That's not true, but it's harder to hack. Right?
Okay.
And it's always the case in the real world that nothing's unhackable. Nothing's unhackable. Everything's hackable. It's just a matter of how hard is it to hack. This is an important point because hackers will tend to target the easiest targets, right? So if I can't get into your phone because you're using a Graphene, well, I might check to see if you have another phone, and I'll look over your shoulder and see on your desk, oh wait, there's an Android phone over there, and or there's an Apple phone, or many multiple ways of determining that, or get into somebody else in your household. I've seen this. Okay, so they're targeting you, but they'll get into somebody else in your household. And then once they're inside your local area network, because your phone's going to connect to the Wi-Fi, right? Your phone's going to connect to the Bluetooth, your phone's going to connect to the Wi-Fi. And from there, it will move to all the devices on the network. That's what we're seeing happen in so many of these cases where everything is hacked. One person carries in a phone that's been infected, right? Thinking about that portrayal in mass media again, my favorite TV show, Mr. Robot, there's a scene, the very first season where Elliot is talking to Vera's brother. His brother comes in, visits him in his little tiny crummy apartment in New York City, and he hacks his phone because they're on the same Wi-Fi network. So the brother asks him, what's your password on your Wi-Fi? Oh, okay, here's my password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, go ahead and connect to it. Once he's on the same network, then it's easy, relatively. Everything's relative, right? Relatively easy to hack that phone. So once you're on the same network, once the attacker is inside your perimeter, okay, inside your network. Everything is much easier then. The graphene is real hard to hack. The Apple's hard to hack. The Android is easier to hack, is the easiest of the major market. And the older the phone is, the easier it is to hack. There's lots and lots of relatively simple hacks that can be done against an Android phone. And we know that there are millions and millions of people out there with old phones. And Android is like, Android in global market, I think is 82%, right? And many of those people are using old, unupdated phones. And those are pretty easy to attack. But
I should get a Nokia. Sorry, go on. I was just going to make a joke. Get a Nokia, okay. Right? Go on.
Yeah, is Nokia still around? I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. Good point. Yeah. I mean, it's an old joke. Should I just get a flip phone, right?
I actually have a Nokia here on my desk that I use for various purposes. It's not my main phone, but it's like, oh yeah, Nokia is still around. At one time, they were the dominant company in cell phone handsets, right? Just Finnish, I believe. They got purchased by Microsoft, didn't they? Well,
yes.
Maybe not. Yeah.
There was Microsoft was involved some of the phones. But it's like, so I'm going to pull you back to Graphene, maybe. Graphene's a good choice. iOS,
then iOS, and then Android last.
Stock Android. Right. But like a flip phone's not going to protect you, because a lot of people say that flip phones are the way to go if you want to be private and secure.
Well, it's going to take a whole different attack, but it's, for the most part, those old flip phones, have almost no defenses in place. And then remember, of course, that all of the devices, when we talk about IoT, right? And a phone is probably, I can put it in the category of IoT, it's the Internet of Things, right? There's a Linux operating system there, right? All these devices have Linux kernels, they have Linux operating systems, and people sometimes will think that Linux isn't hackable, but it is hackable, right? And so, yes, there's probably less malware. No, there is less malware developed for Linux just because there's fewer systems that use Linux. But almost all of those devices in your home, in your hand, in your car are running Linux kernels, right? And so that means that an attacker can get inside of that operating system just like they can get inside of your desktop or your server and do all kinds of bad things. And then once they're inside one device, right, it's relatively easy to hop to other devices in the home, in the office, in the network. So just keep that in mind. Everything is hackable. It's only a matter of how much time, energy, and money the hacker wants to put into attacking you. There's always a way in.
And I think people forget about the fact that if you have a flip phone, you still got to communicate somehow, right? So if you've got a flip phone, you're going to communicate with voice calls and you're going to communicate with SMSs. And it's funny, I just saw something recently where university students were looking at satellites and the communication was in clear text. So they were getting lots of phone calls and SMSs through satellite communication. So, I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, you still got to communicate, and the problem is SMS is clear text. Is that right? And phone calls could be clear text?
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about that. So if the attacker is inside the phone system, which we know that the Chinese did last year, and they still might be there, okay, and probably, the US and Britain are in other countries' phone systems, because it's not, when you're at that level of attack, APT, event persistent threat, when you're at that level, it's relatively easy to attack a phone system. So that's why the governments are attacking each other's phone systems. So that is, and it can be done by cybercrime too. If somebody is inside the phone system, that all of your calls and all of your texts, okay, can be intercepted and eavesdropped on. Right? We have a satellite hacking class so I been a little snarky on X lately. It's like, okay, this new study came out and said that you can intercept phone calls on satellites, satellite phones. Like, oh yeah, we did this already.
Yeah.
This is something that we've done in class, right?
Yeah.
So it's not new. It's not new information. I'm glad that somebody confirmed what we've already done. And I'll plug our satellite hacking class in 2026. We're going to have a new updated satellite hacking class in 2026, and you'll see all the ways that you can hack a satellite, and many of the services are still sending messages in clear text, right? So even if they encrypt it, there's still a possibility of decrypting it. It's not easy, obviously, but when they send it in clear text, you're really looking for trouble.
Yeah.
And it's important to know this also because almost, at least in the US, okay, and they're like Starlink. Okay, Starlink is a low Earth orbit satellite system. 40,000 satellites around the globe, right? Low Earth. The reason that's important is it's low Earth is that the latency between the handset and the satellite is small. It's shorter. And so you get good throughput, okay, and it's done very quickly. Starlink did this. Now, many other companies are offering, for instance, Amazon is going to start competing with Starlink with low Earth satellites.
Interesting.
But there's other companies who have low Earth satellites up there now who are renting space, okay, or contracting with your telecom carrier, like Verizon, AT&T in the US, and they're offering satellite services so that if you're on a mountaintop someplace and you don't have cell service, right, there's actually a lot of places in the US, even though the US is pretty saturated, in the rural areas, oftentimes there's no service. So they're selling this as a way that you can text, you can SMS through the satellites, right? So you're never offline. So if you're on a mountaintop and a big snowstorm comes through, you can say goodbye to your friends.
That's very dark. But yeah, go on. It's a dark take, OTW. I would expect that from a black hat hacker.
Sorry.
No, that's funny. Go on.
Yeah, you can say goodbye to your friends by satellite text message. So this means that the whole system of satellite text messages is a potential vector to intercepting and eavesdropping on these communications.
So we started talking about this thing that WhatsApp, which is hilarious in a way, is complaining that someone's spying on them. So I had it written down here. Another question: WhatsApp or Signal, or have you got a preference, or would you prefer not to say?
No, I always am reluctant to endorse a product because what happens then if I endorse a product and then people get hacked, then they blame me. Right?
Yeah.
So my advice always is be vigilant. That's the
Yeah.
only solution
Yeah.
is be vigilant, right? You cannot in 2025 we have built this incredible digital infrastructure that spans the globe, all right? But that digital infrastructure is flawed. It's weak, right? And it needs to be strengthened. Otherwise, everything that you do, you say, your location is available to anybody who wants it. So be vigilant, right? And don't necessarily trust anything. Now, it's a good rule that when you're online on the internet, don't trust anything.
Yeah.
Don't trust the information you're being given. Don't trust that link that somebody sent you that's going to make you millions of dollars. Don't trust
what we say. No, sorry, go on. I was just joking.
and don't trust what I say. You can trust what David says. Just don't trust what I say.
That's funny.
Because us, has built this digital infrastructure that is so flawed, right? Because people built it, starting in the 1970s, and much of the infrastructure has been built without security in mind, and that's put all of us at risk. So, some point in the future, maybe this system gets replaced, and this time it gets built with security in mind instead of constantly trying to bolt on security. Rather than build it with security, they bolt on security. And bolt on means it's an after effect. They try to put something in to secure it afterwards versus designing it for security, which is, this is a cardinal rule that almost every software engineer gets taught right now. Is okay, you start from security. You start thinking about security when you're designing the whole architecture of your application. Unfortunately, not everybody does that because everybody's under this kind of commercial time frame that has to come out, as quickly as possible. And we get lots of software that comes out that is just really, really flawed. And sometimes we don't know how flawed it is until somebody starts hacking it, like our VPN router article that showed that we did a while ago. And that continues. I mean, there's still the VPNs and routers are getting hacked like all the time because nobody paid attention to them, how easy it is to hack them, right? And these guys didn't design it with security in mind. They like, oh yeah, we can do all the things that a VPN should do. We'll encrypt the data, blah blah blah. But you didn't make your operating system safe, so you can hack the operating system inside the router. And then once you're inside the router, then everything is mine. Everything. I see everything you're doing. I see all your traffic. I can intercept all your traffic. And so this continues today, that we still continue to see these devices, or like the F5 that came out, the load
Exactly.
balance, the F5,
Yeah.
it's being hacked right and left. Why? Because they built it without security in mind. Oh, we're just going to build a load balancer, right? So who's thinking about security on a load balancer? But it's important that we think about security on all pieces of software. And so I'm going to kind of roast a little bit the software industry and say, hey, you guys, get your act together. All right. You're turning out products that are too easy to hack. Right? You need to make it more difficult, and you need to build it into your system from day one versus trying to fix the problems after we find them. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we had a lot of flack on that video. I get a lot of hate because of that video where we spoke about hacking VPNs. To use the word again, it's ironic because every other day or week, it's Cisco, it's Palo Alto, it's Fortinet, your favorite. It's just name them. They're all getting hacked. It's always
They're
in the
all
news.
getting hacked.
Yeah, and it's
every day we see. It seems like every day we see a new VPN router hack, right? Because all of a sudden it's come on people's radar now. It's like, oh yeah, well that's just a little Linux operating system there.
Yep.
And if they didn't design it properly, which they probably didn't, then I can hack it and I can get inside the route. Now the NSA has been doing this for at least 15 years, at least. So they're kind of the ones who turned me on to the idea that routers and VPNs are hackable, right? I mean, I probably, like most people, I didn't think that. I never thought about it. Really, is what it was. Is that I never thought about attacking the router, attacking the VPN, and then the NSA was attacking them, and go, oh, wow, this is a vector that I hadn't considered, and it's so easy to hack.
So IDW, I mean, I think we need to wrap up. But I wanted to hit you with this, and we've spoken about this offline and in other videos. It sounds like there's no hope because if you live in the digital age, you're going to get hacked. So what's your take on that? Perhaps you can give us some hope at the end of the video.
I'm always hopeful, right? I'm always hopeful. And so one of the things that I think all of us have to do, like I mentioned earlier, is you need to be vigilant, right? If you were walking through the jungle with lots of wild animals who could eat you, you would be vigilant. You might be frightened, but you'd be vigilant. You'd be looking over your shoulder. If you hear a noise, you see something, you're going to react. That's what the digital world is in 2025. We have things that will eat you at every corner, and so you just need to always be on your toes, and you have to kind of practice this idea of not trusting anything on the internet, not trusting anything until our digital infrastructure gets rebuilt. I hope that happens soon. You have to be vigilant. You have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility for your safety, because your software company is not going to do it. Okay, your telecom company is not going to do it. Your bank's not going to do it. You have to do it. And you don't have to be a genius. You just have to be skeptical of everything.
So OTW will end on that. That was great. Don't you want to tell us about the discount that people can have if they sign up for your courses? Because I don't think everyone knows about the courses that you have. So tell us about that, and tell us about some of the cool courses that you're creating.
Well, we have a lot of cool courses coming up. We have a smart home hacking coming in January. So we're going to be getting inside all of those little Linux kernels and all of those little devices that connect in your smart home. And this is something we've been seeing a lot in our forensic investigations. We have satellite hacking coming up in 2026. It's a new version of our satellite. So we did one a couple years ago. We're updating that to new techniques and new satellite protocols. And we also have our SCADA, our advanced SCADA class coming up in December. So those of you who aren't familiar, SCADA is industrial control systems. People often refer to them SCADA/ICS. Industrial control systems, and these are the systems that run every business in the industrialized world. They are all computers, and those are hackable. It's one of the industries that probably really needs to up their game to keep from getting shut down. We see ransomware being used against these systems now. And so if you get hit with a ransomware and you're like an oil refinery,
Yeah, exactly.
that's serious stuff. Or we saw the one with the oil pipeline got hit with ransomware in the US a few years, Colonial Pipeline. That can have effects upon the entire economy. And certainly it's very damaging to the company. But if it's an oil refinery or it's an oil pipeline, it can actually have international geopolitical repercussions. So we specialize, this is one of our specialty areas, is SCADA ICS, and we'll be doing an advanced course in December. And if you use the coupon code BOMBAL, Bombal, you take an automatic 20% off anything in our catalog.
I really appreciate that, and thanks for sharing the knowledge so freely online, and also making those courses for people to attend. So for everyone who's watching, I'll put links below. OTW as always, fantastic to talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, David. Good seeing you again.